Speaker is a United States Congressman from the 14th District of Texas. He was a 2008 contender for the president in the Republican Party, author of the Revolution Manifesto and the brand new book, And the Fed. He is Ben Bernanke's best friend. If you want him, let's hear it. Ron Paul! Ron Paul! Ron Paul! Ron Paul!
Thank you very much. Thank you. Nice to be here today. We had fun on Thursday. Does anybody know what happened on Thursday? Not a total victory, but there was a moral victory, let me tell you. We've gotten the attention of the people. For a long time, the Federal Reserve was something that only a few of us cared about and understood. But today, the American people know about it. We're in a mess. And fortunately, the people are doing two things. First, they're looking at Washington and blaming Washington. And second, they're recognizing that the Federal Reserve has been the real culprit behind the financial bubbles and the collapses that we have. You know, the Federal Reserve and the monetary system is a very important issue. It was the motivating issue for me to get involved in politics back in the early 1970s when the last link to gold was severed. At that time, I realized that it would lead to trouble. It would lead to a huge financial bubble and the destruction of the currency. Back then, gold was worth $35 an ounce, or a dollar was worth 1/35 of an ounce of gold. And now, what have they done? They have ruined the value of the dollar, and $1 is worth 1/1100th of an ounce of gold, which means they're doing a very good job at destroying the value of the dollar. The Fed got a dollar to deal with, and you know, they're supposed to protect the value of our money. In 1913, that dollar is worth about 3 cents right now. So I think it's time to call the Fed and say, look, we've had enough. You're not doing the job right. You know, their mandate is that they're supposed to have stable prices, you know, like in medical care and education, very stable prices, cost of government, very stable costs. And the other thing is, they're supposed to deal with unemployment. But they misunderstood something. They weren't supposed to produce unemployment. They were supposed to get rid of unemployment. But today, things are different. The H.R. 1207, the Federal Reserve Transparency Act, has 313 co-sponsors now. Even on the day we were working on that bill in the Financial Services Committee, we had 4 new co-sponsors on that very day. And although I had a little bit to do with it, I really give credit to the American people and the people like you who have had an interest in it and let your congressman know about it. Because I myself personally didn't get the co-sponsors. What happened was it became an issue that became important enough for the American people that they called their congressman and put political pressure on them. So the system will work and can work if the American people wake up and send the right message to Washington. Although the monetary issue was my motivating, the issue that motivated me so much in the 1970s, it really isn't the issue. It's really secondary to the real issue that we all have to be concerned about. And that is personal liberty. That is the issue. Now, how does your personal liberty get attacked? Why is it being diminished constantly? It's because government is too big. Once the government takes over the role of telling you how to run your life, spend your money, and trying to police the world, they do that by undermining liberty. They don't have any money. They either have to steal it or print it and destroy the currency. But they can't do that without the system. Now, if we had a government that had to pay its bills honestly, you know, no borrowing and no inflating, I mean, they wouldn't be able to do it. The American people would be so outraged. Another little trick that we could do, I introduced this bill once, but nobody paid much attention to it. The system is rotten. The tax system is rotten, and it might take us another year or two to get rid of the income tax. Eventually, we'll do that. But wouldn't it be nice just to teach everybody an economic lesson? Repeal withholding taxes. Repeal the pressure on the employer to have to keep all these records and be an involuntary servant to the government. If we had that, and every individual in this country had to send a check in every 30 days to pay enough money to pay for all the wild spending, whether it's the wild spending overseas or the domestic welfare program and all the waste, if we had to pay our bills every month, believe me, this system would end rather quickly. But that is the issue. The issue is what kind of a government we should have. We should ask the question, what should the role of government be? And the founders had a pretty good answer for that. It should be very limited. It should be local, and the purpose of government is to protect liberty. It's not to police the world. We really got off track probably 100 years ago or so. Of course, 1913 was a particularly bad year when our country accepted the notion of an income tax as well as the Federal Reserve System. But in the last 100 years, it's been ever-growing government and ever-diminished personal liberties for each and every one of us. But things are different. Things are changing. We're living right on the edge of even bigger changes because this system cannot be sustained. I entered politics because I knew that a fiat dollar standard would not work. It would finally end. Even though it would work temporarily, it lasted until about a year ago. The financial system is done. You cannot rebuild it with the dollar. They're going to work hard to try to come up with another international paper currency and all kinds of mischief. But they won't ask the right questions until we as the people make sure they ask the right question, and that is, what should the role of government be? And until we do that, we can expect them to do exactly as they have been doing. But it's getting more difficult. It's going to become, it's going to be practically impossible for them to continue the process without a tremendous increase in government force because the system doesn't function. Everything is bankrupt. You know, we have a system of government where, Medicare is broke, Medicaid is broke, all the trust funds have been spent. We have this runaway deficit financing. We get ourselves into a financial crisis. We get into crisis because we spend too much, we borrow too much, we print too much, and we regulate too much. So the crisis finally comes, and we should have everybody's eyes open to the ill effect of all this government nonsense.